Today we are going to talk about fascism. First, what is fascism? Well, according to Webster's dictionary, fascism is
a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition.
Got it? Well, that's okay if you don't. Today we are going over characteristics to help identify fascism. One characteristic is authoritarianism. With this, individual freedoms are often suppressed in favor of state control and the collective good as the regime defines it. So basically you have a group of people who are in power and have all the power in the country. And they act unconstitutionally to the people that they are meant to serve. And they do so by taking away civil liberties. And when this happens, there's nobody to complain to. There's nobody to go to speak up for you or fight, because they either have heavily suppressed or completely eliminated labor unions. Other things that they do is use fear as a tool to help control you, and they will put on a show for you too by having election, except for they're rigged. We can see a great example of that just by looking at Russia. They still have elections, yet there's still just one person who constantly keeps getting elected. So with a fascist state, the corporate power is always protected. They also like to attack the arts very openly and very heavily, to the point where it leads to lack of government funding. Now, the arts are not the only thing that they attack. They attack teachers, scientists, doctors, and again, it does lead to lack of government funding to help with any of those programs. One more thing to emphasize is that the leaders take absolute power fairly quickly into their ruling. Example, Hitler was elected as chancellor, and a few months in, he got the Enabling Act passed, and that gave him absolute power to do anything he pleased. Please note, particularly with this, we see that a country on its way to becoming a fascist state has leaders that gain power by exploiting, or they take advantage of, the legal and democratic processes, but then they will work to dismantle the rule of law to consolidate or limit control. They have no respect for the Constitution or fundamental rules. The next characteristic is extreme nationalism. This is intense national pride and unity at the expense of other countries or even ethnic groups, even if it's within the country. This is a somewhat brainwashing mechanism that is used onto people. You get the mental mentality of thinking, I am better than you in every aspect. Horrifically, these leaders do understand that the child's mind is like a sponge, and so they start pushing this extreme nationalism onto young children very early. Some phrases that you might hear coming from this extreme pride is like, we are fighting to protect our race. We are fighting to protect our country. We are fighting to protect our religion. But to the extremities, like, there is no stopping us because we will defend this. Another key characteristic to fascism is militarism. A fascist state will glorify its military power. They value a strong day-to-day military presence within society. They believe that national strength is identified by military strength. Now, typically, there will be a police force that is either established or it is rebranded, and that police force will have nearly limitless power, so they can do the administration's bidding as the administration pleases. Another characteristic of fascism is suppression of dissent, or to withhold. They employ censorship and repression to eliminate opposition. This is key to how they stay in control. They can use surveillance, intimidation, mass arrests. Can it be violent? Yes, and they are okay with that. The government controls the media, restricts free speech. They will target political opponents, usually left-leaning, and make them the bad people, the enemy of the state. They will also target minority groups. Racism in fascist ideology appears as a criterion for the development of moral and legal norms. It just makes it the standard on which that judgment can be based.
This method is highly effective and necessary as it redirects what the people focus on. If the society is spending all of their attention fighting each other, then they are too busy to realize their country is being taken over by the very people who are meant to serve them.
One last characteristic of fascism is the cult of personality. This is a big one. The whole regime is centered around a charismatic leader or a group of leaders who embodies the ideals of the movement. They will use propaganda to reinforce their image, their authority, and push their revolutionary ideas. They will also use propaganda to back up their reasonings for whatever they give to the public. They will use propaganda to make themselves feel good about themselves. One major tool that they use with this is wordplay. It is extremely important. Wordplay sets the stage. How you project it is how they'll accept it. One way they do this is through repetition, repeating the words over and over again, a certain phrase over and over again. If you say a lie enough, it becomes the truth, and they fully take advantage of this. Religion has a heavy influence, not only in society, but within the government, so much so that they're like intertwined with each other, and the religious beliefs start to reflect in the laws of the land. This can appear in the form of a spiritual education, reactionary, ultra-conservative, anti-scientific. They often reject the ideas of humanism, which is to promote human progression and reason.
Aligning with that, they tend to reject the ideals of the Age of Enlightenment. This was a time when people pushed reason over superstition and science over blind faith. People like John Locke, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau questioned what was the accepted knowledge and spread new ideas about openness and religious tolerance. Their ideas literally sparked revolutions. With ideas such as Locke's, who felt if the government failed to perform their basic duty and become oppressive, the people had the right to overthrow. From this era, new thoughts emerged and people started to claim their voices.
Well, those are the characteristics of fascism. I hope you learned something. Before we get on out of here, I would like to address one question that I feel is commonly asked when talking about this subject, and that is, what happens when society realizes that they have slipped or is slipping into a fascist state? Well, typically, when people start to realize that there's a resistance of some sort, and the citizens organize and participate in a movement that challenges the state of authority. The outcome of this depends on how strong that movement was, and also it depends on the willingness of the regime to respond with force. Typically, after the regime has felt some kickback, they increase oppression among everyone. If you would like to do some more on your own or get an experience, so to speak,
I recommend reading 1984 by George Orwell and It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis. Both are dystopias, one that shows a totalitarian society under constant surveillance, and the other one follows the political aspect of America's first outright dictator.
They're both really good, and it just provides a crazy perspective of what life could be, and it's frightening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Next time we'll be talking about fascism in Italy, looking at how Mussolini did things.